The printC argument is a feature we've incorporated into all of the RCPA3 functions that generate tables and figures. It is built into 15 of our functions. The argument outputs tables you generate to a .html file in your working directory. The HTML versions of tables are formatted in a way that makes them easier to read and also easier to convert into publication quality tables. By default, the printC argument is set equal to false, which means it doesn't output anything to your computer. To use the printC feature, you add the argument printC equals capital T or printC equals capital TRUE, true, to a function with the printC feature. To learn how to use the printC argument and convert its table output into a publication ready table, let's work through an example together. Okay, let me show you how to use the printC argument for one of the RCPA3 companion functions. So to illustrate, I'm going to create a frequency distribution table and accompanying bar chart for a public opinion variable in the NES data set. So my suggestion is when you're might use this argument is to start with the basic version of what you want to create. So for this frequency distribution table, I know I'm going to have a variable. I'm going to use the weights to be nationally representative. I think that's it. So let's pick out something that might be interesting in the NES dataset. How about approve of the ACA, approve of the Affordable Care Act, and we will add on the weights variable to it and give this a run. This should be familiar to you. So you can see here that we've got a table, a frequency distribution table, showing the frequencies and counts, the percentages and the cumulative percentages, and also in the plot window have a basic bar chart showing the same distribution. Now I put this note here: once the table and figure are right, set printC equal to true to save. So before using printC, we might make some adjustments to it. For example, we might be reporting too many digits after the decimal point here. That seems kind of excessive to me to report percentages in hundredths. I think to do that with one decimal point should be fine, and it'll make the table look a little bit simpler. So I'm going to add digits equal to 1. I also think that and it even gave us a message on this, that the text labels are long. We might use the rolabs argument to abbreviate. That's referring to the labels here. So I'm going to add some new row labels to this, rerun it, and see how it looks. As I'm looking at the main argument for the plot and the x-axis label here aren't looking as nice as they should. Maybe I will adjust those too. So I paused the video and I made some adjustments to this frequency C call to get the table looking like I want it to look. So I've added the rolabs argument to shorten the row labels for the values of the NES approved.aca variable. I adjusted the main title of the plot and decided to just set the X label equal to an empty quotation set, so nothing, because I didn't feel like in context that these x-axis values needed to be labeled. I thought with the title being public support for the Affordable Care Act, and given the text here, I don't think it needs to say that these are the values, the level of public support. I think that's kind of obvious, so I thought that could be omitted. So I ran this, and I think it's looking pretty good. It still gives a message that the text labels for the bars are long, that we might shorten it, but I feel like it might be difficult to shorten it further without changing the context. And I like it a lot more with the single number reported after the decimal point. So I think always could be improved, but I think this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to add the argument printC, and by default this is false, but I'm going to set it equal to true. So I'm going to add the optional argument printC equal to true and run it again. Now it should show me the table and figure again in the R environment, but I've got these additional messages. Look here, it says that the table is appended to a document called table output January 6, 24. That's the day I'm making this video, and it tells me where it's located in it's my office computer in the documents folder. And it also says that the image file has been added to that HTML file and it exists in the same documents folder. Okay, so let me show you where that files have been added. I'll bring the documents folder into view. Here's my documents folder. Forgive the mess, but I'm sure this is what a lot of folks' document folders look like. So it's got in here in the documents folder, here's the table output January 6, 2024 file that is added, and it's also actually added in here another file, the frequency C plot, the kind of long mess of uniquely identifying numbers here. So let's see what we can do with the table output now that we have it in HTML file. So open the table.output January 6, 24. The day will be different for you when you use it because you won't be using it on this day, but it will look something like this, table output with the current date. I'll double click that to open it, and it opens in a my web browser, and you can see what the file looks like here in the web browser. I have the table. Now the table's got a slightly different format. You can see it's got a little bit of style to it now, with a font chosen and some bolding of the headings, organized into rows, a little bit of shading here, which looks kind of nice. And then I also have the plot over here. It's a thumbnail version in this view, and if you click to enlarge, you get a bigger version of it that's actually in a .png file format. It's a nice small file format, image file format that has a sharp resolution. And then you might also notice down here, it's got some notes that are kind of helpful for reference for the future. So it tells you when you generated the output and also the command used to generate the output, which might be helpful if you're trying to recreate this in the future or do a variant of this in the future and want to know what you did. So that's all there in the notes. So this HTML table is an improvement over what we see in the console, and for some purposes it might be sufficient, but let me show you the real reason that the printC is helpful. So this table has some organization of rows and columns established into it, and I might use this to save a lot of time in creating a publication or presentation style format. So what I will do is I will highlight all of the table the table content that's inside of the bordered box here, and copy it, and I'm going to bring up my Word document here and paste it into a Word document. And just for good measure, I'm going to copy and paste the notes as well, so I have some table notes to work with. Now that I've got the table into a Word document, it makes it a lot easier to format it. And for the formatting, to make it look presentation or publication quality, you want to make it look like something that's academic. So I like to kind of have a reference in mind when I'm formatting a table for what I want it to look like, just in terms of the style anyway. So what I'm showing here on the right-hand side of the page is a table that I copied from a recent issue of the American Journal of Political Sciences, which is one of the top political science journals in the world. And I basically just want to have my style of the table look like the style of the table here. And in its current form, it makes it a lot easier to do that. Let me show you how I would do it. So we've got the table. I will call it frequency distribution of public support for Affordable Care Act. That's looking good. And then I'm going to use the existing, most of the existing table here. Get rid of this. Let's see. I'm just comparing the two. This has some nice shading in it that looks attractive, but I'm noticing the model table doesn't have any use of shading, so I'm going to get rid of that. And then it does have, as you can see, a border above and a border below. So just some word tricks here. The border style. That's too many borders. Okay, next I want to get the borders. Try to get the borders looking right. So the top column, or the top row with the header, looks like the style is to have a border above and a border below. It should be solid border. So a solid border above and a solid border below. It's coming along here, and then they don't. For the bottom row, they don't have a total, any kind of total here, and I do. So maybe I'll use a slight variant of the style, and for table properties, I will put a border above the total row and below the total row, and see how this looks. That looks pretty nice. Now I want to some finishing touches here. I want to write out the word cumulative percent. Give a little more room to my table here. Okay, that's looking fairly similar to what they have. I think that might be shorter. Oh, obviously got to correct this typo here to compare a little. I'm not sure which font I'm using here. Let's make sure we get a nice academic looking font. 12. Okay, 12 font Roman. They've got the word table in small caps, so I will imitate that. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to use my notes here and just kind of do a similar style to their notes. Okay, so this should be, I always want to use the same font consistently throughout. What did I use? Times New Roman. The font is slightly smaller, and I think that is slightly smaller there. I want to add a little bit of padding to the top of it, because there's a little bit more space than I'm showing between the bottom border and the notes. Let's try 6. That should look good. Okay, some finishing touches here. So there you have the notes are justified on both sides. So I will do that as well. And then I'm going to bring it in a little bit more so it matches the table. This font is bigger. That seems about right. Oops. Okay, this is single spaced with a bit of more room after it. This should be single spaced. Oh, yeah, because I had a return in there. So let's do a no room after. And then I'll just add a, okay, that looks great. The last thing looks like the headings are a little bit larger than the text in the body, and I don't want that to break. So that would be the only one breaking. Let's space that out a little bit more. Okay, now I think that looks great. So you can see how that, didn't eliminate all the work that went into formatting the table after uh, doing the analysis in R. It wasn't quite publication ready, but a lot of the work, the busy work of this, of like entering the numbers, organizing the table, has been done. And then you can see how, if you're, fairly conscientious about the detail, you can make a table that looks, I think, very attractive, and it would be the best way, I think, to showcase your results in a paper or a presentation. It takes a little bit of attention to detail and a little bit of effort to do something like this, but I think if you're careful about it, you can take the work that you've done and enhance the quality and appearance dramatically. And the printC argument is very helpful in reducing the amount of time that it takes to do something that looks publication or presentation quality.